a bit of a mystery to me why British boat builders don't make a boat like this. So we've gone Turkish. This is the Sirena 48 Fly, and it's actually the entry-level model in Sirena's impressive range. They make big super yachts these days, but to me, this is actually a little bit more interesting, and I think it's very well suited to UK waters. Semi-displacement hull, lots of volume, big but not too big that you can't get it into marinas, and all of this to this spec is £1.6 million excluding VAT. And in this video, I'm going to tour it, drive it and berth it to see if it lives up to the hype. I'm Jack Haines, you're watching YachtBuyer. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the YachtBuyer YouTube channel. That way you're never going to miss one of our sea trials like this. Right, we're going to start down here at the waterline. Now this style of boat, a trawler, you're unlikely to find a tender garage. There are Flybridges and sports cruisers of this size that have one, but in this style of boat you're likely to have a hydraulic bathing platform. Multiple functions with that. This is an HB Technics one. It's a really nice bit of kit. It drops down quickly. It's nice and big. It's got a 350 kilogram lift capacity, so you can keep a Williams on here. The only downside is that there is no step back onto the boat. So when it's down in the water, you can't easily, without the help of someone else, step back onto the boat. And also, this lip here, well, it's too narrow really to walk along when the platform's down. So you can't get along the back of the boat with the platform in the water. However, on the plus side, storage is excellent. This is essentially a big boot. It's also where, as an option, if I can get it open, there we go. It's also where, as an option, you can have a crew cabin, a single crew cabin. Now, it would be extraordinarily tight. And I think on this style of boat, really, it's a bit of a waste of space. You're better to have storage, because look, we've got all the fenders in here, lines, covers. You could get a paddleboard in there if it was deflated. Just really useful to have so much storage at the back of the boat, close to the waterline, so you can get your toys out, fenders, lines, and it all goes away really nicely. The last thing to point out down here is that we've got a shower. So you've got a hose that comes out here, and this is now all in one unit. It used to be that you had the head and a tap, but now it's all in one place. So it's a really nice little neat solution that folds away when it's not in use, and then controls here for the passerelle. So there's a passerelle that pushes out of here to meet the quayside, and also the controls for the platform are really easy to get to, but there's also a remote control for the platform so you can use it from the tender. Very handy. Right, let's carry on inside the cockpit. Now there's only access up the starboard side into the cockpit. They've pushed it all the way over, so you can only get out from one side, which is a little bit annoying, but the access is good. It's a nice shallow staircase. There's railings all the way to help you up, and a nice boarding gate too, so you can close it off if there are little ones here. And there's a really good focus on the mooring gear. There's the usual stuff. You've got a nice big open cleat here with two-way fair leads, but it's things like having a nice box for the lines. It would be useful to have something to hold that up, because that slams down all too easily. However, it's big enough to hold lines, but also run tails in when the boat is tied alongside. Another really nice practical feature is boarding gates on both sides. Of course, if the pontoon's low, you can board really easily from the bathing platform, but if it's higher, a high quayside or a fuel pontoon, for example, we've got these. Really easy to open those up, and you can step off on either side. And moving into the cockpit, we're seeing more of this, aren't we? This is all modular. You can see it is screwed down into the deck, but you can remove those and move this around as you wish. But as standard, this position is so much better than having a bench running across the back, though that is an option with this boat. You can have more traditional fixed transom seating, and it's got a pop-out sun pad as well. So you've got this option, the crew cabin option that I mentioned, and that option too. But I like this one. This feels really nice and casual when it's like this. But of course, you want to dine outside, you can just extend this table as so. It rises up to, it's in kind of coffee table mode at the moment, but it does come up, and then you can eat out here, and you're really well protected. But these are lovely because they're comfortable to lounge in, but still nice if you need to sit forward and have something to eat. It's a great space, and you've got glass in the transom as well, so you're really nicely connected to the water and protected by that big wheelhouse. And there's even more protection on offer as well, because you can fully enclose this area too. There are runners here in the overhead, so you can put covers that extend right out to the edge of the cockpit here, so you can really extend the main deck if you want to be out here but the weather isn't so good. Really, really useful. It's very practically thought out. There's a big hatch in the deck. There is no lazarette because you've got all that storage down there. That's engine room access. We're going to go there at the end of the tour. So you like the oily bits, stick around for now. We're going to head up front. And the practical stuff continues here on the side decks. It's a really easy boat to move around. I like the fact that you're partly covered, just makes you feel a bit more secure. There's also lighting in this section, so at night it should look really nice. It'll light up the decks as well. You've got bulwarks but then rails too, so very easy to hang the fenders. And nice that there's teak here as well, just brightens it all up a little bit because there's obviously quite a lot of fiberglass up here. Pop-up cleats too, very slick. And then right forward, well, they've really gone for it with the sunbathing space. I mean, just look at the size of this sun pad. It's huge. Probably get 6 adults on here, and nice that you've got the built-in headrest so you can lie back and relax. But also, the bench gives you a backrest here too, so it makes it a little bit more sociable. You can have people lying there, people sitting here, talking that way. It's really nice. It's quite a simple arrangement, but not one you often see, and I think it works really well. And just so much space here. Cup holders dotted around too to hold your bits and bobs. I like it. And these benches, well, these are always great. I think if you're coming into harbour especially, this is a really nice place to sit and take in the view. Right at the bow. Back to practical stuff. Anchor lockers, very important. I mean, it is just absolutely gigantic. I think I could stand up in there and you'd just about to be able to see the top of my head. Absolutely enormous. We've got more fenders in there. If you saw, there's quite a few stowed back there in the boot, but loads more space in here. It isn't segregated, so the chain can mix up with rope and lines, which is a bit of a shame, but no issue with the size of it. It's really, really impressive. Same over on that side. Nice big chunky cleats too. It really does feel properly engineered. And of course, this is a simple mechanism, but it just works. We see lots of really fancy anchor mechanisms these days, but a nice roller that's well proud of the bow with an exposed windlass. You can't beat it. Let's head to the Flybridge. Right, up to the Flybridge, and this is a space where the 48 feels really big. I mean, it is bigger than 48, it's sort of 52 feet, and it feels huge up here, and they've used the space really intelligently. The benefit of this trawler design is how far back the Flybridge goes, and you've just got such a wonderful amount of space. I mean, look at this seating area. We're on a 50-foot boat. I mean, look at the size of it. It's enormous, and then it's got this great functionality whereby you have the split table, so this is great for having a drink in the evening, but if you want to eat up here, you can light downstairs, lift these over, and look at the size of this table. With space at the end for people as well, possibly squeeze a couple more chairs there if you wanted to, but it's brilliant. You are genuinely done up here. There's more than enough space to do it. And then when these fold back, they reveal these great handholds and cup holders as well. Brilliant design. And then just forward of that, if you do want to eat up here, you've got the wet bar. So you've got this central moulding, which is really part of the Sirena design. This kind of tower that links up to the radar above. Obviously, we've got a hardtop on this model. You can have this boat as a coupe as well, but I think this Flybridge model offers so much simply because the Flybridge is so big and well designed. So nice central wet bar, kind of separates driving from dining, and it's big. Nice big lid. Look how beautifully this is all done too. Bear in mind, Sirena pretty much starts off life building azimuts. So they really do know how to build a high quality boat, and they've brought that into their own products. So nice grill next to the sink, and next to the sink in a way that you can actually clean stuff straight into the sink, which is really handy and often not the case. Underneath, I'm going to take a wild guess that we've got a fridge. We have. It's like I've done this before. Potential for an ice maker, not in there. A James Bark special, and then just a bit of storage. But yeah, all really nicely done. Handhold around the outside. It's great back here, and it continues forward. Now we're going to talk about the helm out at sea. We're going to sea trial this in a moment. So let's talk more about yet more lounging space. And again, it's really well done. So this is actually a removable backrest. You can have it this way, so people can sit and face back into the boat. But maybe when you're moving along on a calm day, you would pull this out, and there are 2 slots here, so you can sit facing forward. Not massively comfortable if the boat's really panning along, but when you're drifting along, that would be a nice place to sit. And I really like what they've done here. Now we see these forward sunbathing spaces all the time, but they're often just completely flat. This is so inviting, the fact that you've got the cushion running all the way around, high backrest. You can really get comfortable here, and little ones can snuggle right down and get protected by the windscreen when you're moving along. And it's just the sheer size of it. You know, again, 5 or 6 adults could sit here. You can be that end if you're dining, lounging right forward. And again, this is all on a boat with a 48 on the side. It is really, really well designed up here. Let's see what it's like downstairs. Right, into the saloon and out of the wind. Sorry about this. What I'm going to do first is just pop the doors open, because this is a really nice feature. With the galley aft, you can ventilate it so well. These sliders so, and then that is properly open to the cockpit. Aft galley is nothing new. This boat's main rival, the Absolute Nevada, does pretty much exactly this arrangement. If you want to compare them side by side, do that on yachtbuyer.com. You can literally put them side by side and see where all the differences lie. It's really, really useful. But this is a good arrangement. It's a nice big galley, actually. And there's lots of storage, all sort of hidden away. We'll come to that in a moment. But in terms of this section, this is your cooking and prep area. So you've got a decent sized sink. Now, if I was them, I'd have made the bottom of this a chopping board, because then it can become a useful addition to the worktop. At the moment, it just kind of gets in the way. But it's a nice big sink, and it is useful that it's covered up when you're not using it. This has to be put in the right way. So this isn't a wine cooler, as I first thought. That is actually the bin. It's quite convenient that it's there, but it's not very big, so you're going to spend quite a lot of time emptying that, I would imagine. Induction cooking with pot clamps as well, so you can cook on the move and they aren't going to slide around all over the place. I should say, you'll have spotted we're on anchor. This boat has the optional Seakeeper, over £100 option. It's a lot of dough, but it does make being at anchor on what is a relatively choppy day, well, it just takes all the edge off it. It is worth the money, even though it is a lot of money. Nicely extra ventilation here, so you've got the window, but there is extraction above. There's a little bit of storage up here, some of your spices, that sort of thing. And then this is all various bits of storage, which I'm not going to open exhaustively. These are the most interesting doors, because at the top we have the freezer, and underneath, you guessed it, the fridge, which are a good size. You're going to be on board this boat for a long period of time, potentially. As I said at the start, you could live on board for a few weeks, so having a nice big fridge is good. Having a small bin is not so good. Now onto the storage, which is all hidden away. This is nice. This is the sort of stuff that we coo over when Azimuth and Princess do it, and fair play Sirena. This is a big unit, but it's very useful because it's got storage for things like proper china plates. And these fiddles are covered in foam, so they don't rattle around. But it's not just the plates, even every single individual piece of cutlery has got a little foam lined slot that you put them in, so even they aren't allowed to rattle when you're moving along. We'll see when we start it up if you hear any of this rattling, because often on quiet boats, what you hear is all that stuff tinkling around in the cupboards. I'm going to keep going because it's really satisfying. Look, even these little spoons. They've bothered to make them for that. It's really nice attention to detail. I like it. TV is behind. That just pops up. It's a good size, 50-inch, I believe. So there's a control for that. Up it comes and then drops down, which is good because that window is lovely. Really nice view out of this. You've got those on both sides, of course. And then when you're sitting down here in the dinette, you've still got that lovely view. But of course, this is really well placed to sit and watch that TV. I'm disappointed with the number of scatter cushions. I do think they could have fitted more on this sofa. But yeah, you can obviously move those out of the way and make it a bit more comfortable. They're just demonstrating how big it is, I suppose. Another fold-out table. Again, if you want to dine inside, then you can, and it's relatively comfortable. I believe as an option, this table's fixed, it's got a fixed leg. You can have it on an adjustable leg, drop it down and give yourself an extra double berth here, which is quite handy. The only area that sort of drops the ball a bit, I think, is this. This just feels a bit wasted. Obviously, we've got air conditioning in here, but there's no storage. Obviously, there's nowhere to sit. You have got a double helm bench, but this just feels like a little bit of wasted space. But everything else in this area is really good. The helm, like upstairs, I'm going to cover when we drive it because it's way more interesting. For now, let's drop downstairs, have a look at the cabins. As for the layout here on the lower deck, it's a 3-cabin, 2-bathroom arrangement. On the starboard side, there's a twin cabin. Behind me, there's a double VIP, which is connected to the dayhead, so it's got ensuite access to that. And then amidships, we've got a really nice full-beam owner's cabin, which we're going to finish up in. We're going to start forward with the VIP. So yeah, right forward, the VIP, it's got a nice full bow, this boat. It's another benefit of the trawler style. The Absolute's quite similar, to be honest. They can really push this cabin out to the extremes and quite a long way forward as well. So again, for the size of boat, the space in here is really impressive. Not only the end of the bed, which is enough space for one person to get changed pretty comfortably, even two at a push. But look at the head heights as well, well over 6 feet. So it's very easy to move around. The bed is set quite low. Often boats this size, they're quite high to get away from the shape of the hull, but this one doesn't have to be, so it's nice and comfortable. And natural light's pretty good. Now, you've not got a skylight or even an escape hatch, which is a bit of an issue, but you have got natural light both through these long windows, and there are ports too, so you can get some breeze running through here. Of course, air conditioning is an option which this boat has, so it's really hot, so you'll be using that, and you'll see the controls for this under here, so you can set the climate in here as you wish. TV is really nice too. I really like the way they've made it a bit of a feature. It's not just flung on the wall. It's got a glass mirrored finish and then this nice surround. I think that looks really smart. Storage is decent. Nice big hanging wardrobe over there. There are lockers dotted around either side. You've got these quite useful little spots as well for phones, glasses, that sort of thing. Sockets down there, so you can charge your devices easily at night, and you've got repeaters for the lights. You can lie in bed and turn off all the lights in the cabin. As I said, this is the day head, but it's also en suite. So this cabin has private access, which is quite nice. And yeah, it's a decent size. Big enough to have a separate shower cubicle. That's blocked off by the door at the moment, but there is a nice size cubicle back there, and it's all very, very nicely finished. But I think the best finish is actually in the owner's cabin, which we're going to see in a moment. For now, let's check out the twin. So over here on the starboard side is where we find that twin cabin. A little bit compact, you know, really best suited for kids. These berths are really quite narrow, so adults, if you're a side sleeper, you're going to struggle a bit in here. It really is best suited for kids, but you know, occasionally adults will be fine in here. Crucially, as an adult, you've got plenty of headroom, both when you first come in through the door, then it drops down, and between the beds, it's really towering. It's very impressive, and storage is good as well. Proper hanging locker here. It'd be nice if that lit up. None of them light up, and I think that's a nice touch that they could quite easily add quite inexpensively, really. But even here, not a huge hull window, but enough to bring some natural light in, and you can see the water, which is always pleasant. And then again, you can pop that open for some natural ventilation. A shared bedside table. These are fixed, you can't slide them together, so this is a true twin, but you've got the shared bedside table. Again, sockets up there, lighting repeaters, and air conditioning in here as well. Right, let's head amidships, take a look at the owner's cabin. So it's down a couple of steps into this lobby area where you first have laundry. If you have your washer dryer option, that's where it will go. There's a slightly odd shaped cupboard above it, which I assume is for all your laundry materials, but handy that that's there because all guests can use it. It's not just squirreled away in the owner's cabin. As we come into this cabin on the port side, we should cover the bathroom because it's just here. They've used a sliding door so it doesn't gobble up too much space in the lobby or in the bathroom. It's a little bit tight, not as generous as the one forward, but it is completely private, and it's still big enough to have a separate cubicle that's got really good headroom. Like, it's good here, but it's even higher there, and it's got a rainfall shower head, all these nice little details. You know, the bathroom wear is all very nicely done. Again, the quality does extend a long way into this boat. It's you know, it's relatively good value, I feel, but you don't feel like they're cutting corners when it comes to fit and finish. It's really nice. Continues in the owner's cabin, and there's a really nice mix of colours down here and textures. You've got light wood, you've got dark material behind the bed, you've got the sort of two-tone wood effect here. It's not all one slab of colour. It's really quite interesting. Even these sort of contours in the roof just make it all a little bit more visually interesting. It's the same with the TVs. That's the same design as the one in the VIP. It's just much bigger, but it makes more of a thing of it. It's nice. Bureau here, so you can store your jewellery and do makeup, and you've got a little stool which goes with it. This sofa, it's always quite nice to have somewhere to sit that isn't the bed, I find, especially when the TV's that good. I mean, you might generally come down here and either gaze out at the view through your big hull window, or you know, you've got a good view of the television as well. And once you've come down those steps, the floor is totally flat, and look at the space here. We're on a V-drive boat. I'll talk more about that when I drive it. What that essentially means for the layout is you can put this bulkhead a lot further back because the engines are further back, and they've used that really well. This just feels like a cabin from a boat, the sector above it. It truly does. More storage down there. Big hang storage here. Again, it saddens me that a light doesn't come on when I do that, because it would just finish it off. You can get them from IKEA for £2. Do it yourself. But it's nice storage anyway. And again, you've got the nice bedside tables, reading lights, and a little bit more posh detail here because you're the owner. And still plenty of clearance. If you sit in bed, nice big bed it is too. Sit in bed really comfortably to watch TV or read or use your tablet. Fabulous space this. Really, really nice. Before we go into the engine room, I think we already see what it's like to drive. Let's go. Right, we're going to start driving up here at the Flybridge helm. We are now cruising along at about 7 knots, so let's just wind her up a little bit, get us moving. Now there are two engine options with this boat. There's a pair of Cummins 550s, which is what this has got. You can also have larger Volvo engines which have got 670 horsepower. Now, Sirena claim that you'll get 24 knots with these engines, and we are now wide open throttle at about 3,300 RPM, and we're pushing some tide here, but we did a two-way run earlier on, and we got 20 knots on a two-way run, so a little way short of what they claim. It's 100 grand to upgrade to the Volvo engines, so it's a lot of money, obviously, for maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 knots more performance. But what it probably does mean is that with those bigger engines, the boat is working less hard to maintain cruising speed, especially if you've got a boat that's full of kit, tender on the back, gyro, aircon, heavy extras, plus, you know, adding the fact that it's going to have some growth on it, some fouling on the hull. And I do think that the extra money is worth it potentially for those bigger motors. That said, you're probably not going to cruise at much of a different speed, really. This is cruising at kind of 16 knots, and maybe you'd be able to cruise at 18 comfortably if you had the bigger engines. So, you know, that's just something that you have to try and square in your own head, whether that performance is worth the money. Actually, I don't feel too much like I miss the speed because it's so happy at this sort of 15, 16 knot cruising speed. And the German Frers hull is an absolute peach. Super soft riding, very dry, but also responsive. The steering is really quite heavy at low speed, but once you get moving, it lightens up nicely, and it genuinely turns quite nicely, especially if you want to turn back on yourself. Often these semi-displacement hulls take an age to turn around on themselves, but this will do it in a couple of boat lengths, and it's not a very long boat. And obviously it's not a boat that's about the handling, but it's nice to know that you have to make a quick turn, a quick change of direction. It isn't too ponderous when it does it. And it's a clever hull because it's super efficient at slow speed. You know, 10 knots, 8, 10 knots, you're probably going to get 500, 600 nautical miles out of it cruising. But as is often the case with semi-displacement hulls, it does tail off a fair bit when you go faster. So at 16, 17 knots, I think you'd be lucky to get 200 nautical miles, to be honest. But it gives you that flexibility to be able to go slowly and eke out your diesel and make the most of it. Or if you want to get a move on, dodge some weather, get somewhere quickly, you can cruise in the mid-teens, and that's really nice. But it's not a performance boat. You know, if you want to be doing 30 knots, this is not the boat for you. But then, you know, many of its rivals are similar. Greenline 45 Fly, Absolute Navetta 53, that's an IPS boat. It's all a bit smoother, the steering's lighter, but you're not going to get much performance out of it. But the driving position up here, it's pretty good. Everything is a bit far away from me. The screens, I can see them really easily, but I'm leaning forward a long way to use them. The throttles as well, when you're going up to speed, you are stretching quite a long way to get to these. But it's not really a boat that you're going to be coming on and off the throttles with much. Even if it's rough, you will probably just set the speed and let the hull deal with it. And as I said, the hull is very good. I'd have, you know, full confidence in letting the hull work through big seas, and you just set the speed. So I'm not too fussed about that. The bench is comfortable. They've got a footrest too, so I can sit back. I'm well supported. Feet are comfortable. The bench is big enough that I can have someone next to me too, which is really nice. And there's some cup holders and storage for devices on either side of the helm. It's quite simple, it's quite plain, but functionality is pretty good. There's not a huge amount of adjustment. Wheels fixed, benches fixed, but luckily for me at my height, this is actually a pretty comfortable driving position. Noise levels, yeah, we're sort of towards the top of the rev range here, and it is a bit noisy. I'm having to raise my voice to talk to the camera. The person next to me here, it would be okay to chat with them, but talking to people sat down there, be straining your voice quite a lot. But of course, this solid hardtop probably acts as a little bit of an echo chamber. The view, sitting back here, I can't actually quite see the point of the bow. It doesn't really matter when you think about it, because you can see the sea in front of you, you can see obstructions, but there's something about sort of seeing the bow that is quite comforting. I don't know what it is, but I sit back and I can't quite see the bow. If I stand up, I can. But yeah, you've got that long bit of sunbathing space, which is nice, but it means the windscreen is a long way away from you, and it kind of blocks your view of the bow if you've got the cushions in place. But you know what? It's a nice driving experience up here. And if you're happy to settle down and cruise at about 15 knots, You know, the Seakeeper at the slowest speeds is going to be helping with stability as well. We've got Humphrey trim blades, which are helping with the trim. They're on auto. I haven't thought about those all day. They're just doing their thing. It's maybe not quite as easy to drive as an Absolute with the super light IPS steering and the joystick, but it's not bad at all. And as I said, we've got 2 helms. So when the weather's not like this, you can drop downstairs and get some shelter. Let's go and see what it's like from down there. Right, at the breeze down here. And I mentioned during the tour that this has got V-drives and the benefits of that in terms of layout and packaging down there. But the benefit when it comes to the performance and the cruising ability is that the engines are outside of the saloon. They're a long way back, which obviously helps with noise reduction. So if we get her up to cruising speed again, get a nice little burst out the hole, let it build. See, this is what I like about this hull, is that yes, it's semi-displacement, but it gets going quite nicely. Doesn't feel laboured in any way, and it just really goes through the water very, very cleanly. I expect a little bit more wallowing from a semi-displacement hull, but it tracks really nicely. It's so soft and quiet. I mean, you can probably pick up, there is a few white horses around. There's no slapping, there's no banging. And I said when we were doing the tour, you know, you'll hear things like the crockery and the cutlery. When the hull is quiet and there's no squeaking from the superstructure, suddenly you can hear all the stuff in the galley, but not a thing. It's really impressive when it comes to noise reduction, both the machinery and all the bits stowed away back there in the galley. So yeah, we're now at that 50 knot cruising speed, and I'll stop talking so I can get a sound reading. Yeah, 75 decibels. To put that in some kind of context, tested the Beneteau Swift Trawler 37 in the video that went out a couple of weeks ago. Granted, it's a smaller boat, but that was 90 decibels at cruising speed. So 75, considering you're at the fast cruising speed, you're not drifting along at 10 knots, I think is pretty good. And it's certainly pretty comfortable for me to talk here in my normal speaking voice and not have to raise my voice over the engines. The driving experience is obviously very similar to upstairs. I really like the windscreen. That central mullion is quite thick, and you do find yourself just popping your head to port to look round it occasionally, but it's nice and upright. It comes back a long way too, so you haven't got much of a blind spot here, and you're quite a long way forward, so it's just a really nice clear view of the bow. No issues with seeing the bow from here, and equally because of all the glass around me, looking around is pretty easy as well. The bench is a similar size to the one upstairs, though it does bolster, so I can lean if I want to, and I still have a really nice clear view out, and there's space for somebody else to lean next to me. It is fixed, so again, you can't really adjust it and get closer to the helm, but it's fine. Everything is a bit too far away, much like upstairs. You know, you're stretching for the controls, but I can't complain about the view of everything. Something you don't have here is much sort of storage for bits and bobs. There's no cup holders, there's no ledge on anything, so I can't chuck my phone or sunglasses or anything like that away and then not slide around. So they could do with adding something like that to help store stuff up here. We have got a side door. I'll talk more about that when I'm berthing it in a moment. It's really good to have a side door. I'm not complaining. It's really good, but it's not one that you can really have ajar. You know, a sliding one you can pin open, but this is either open really, fully open, or you're going to close it because otherwise it's going to swing around on its mechanism. So you can't really use it to ventilate when you're moving along, which is a bit of a shame. You know, having an opening section in the window, or maybe a window over there, would just mean you can get some fresh air in here when you're moving, because you haven't got any other options. The only window is back there in the galley, which isn't much help to the skipper. So that's something they could look at. But generally, for the type of boat, you know, a boat where you're not really engaging with it from a sort of performance perspective all that often, it's a really comfortable cruising boat. And I think really what underpins it all is the hull. It immediately just feels like it's going to look after you. Really polished, really accomplished, soft riding, quiet, but also with that little bit of agility that's really nice, where you don't feel like, you know, I'm driving a trawler, so therefore it's going to be really wallowy and poor to react to the wheel. Yes, the steering's heavy, but it turns really nicely. Yeah, it's a good combination. And, you know, they have built nearly 50 of these now, so they really know what they're doing. And it really hangs together very nicely. I've been very impressed by the fit and finish, the close detail. But of course, you learn the most when you get it moving through a bit of a chop. And it feels really, really competent. A question about performance, you might want the bigger engines if you're going to have a really heavy spec and carry a lot of kit. But generally, pretty impressed. But being a liveaboard boat, I mean, I say this all the time, but it is a boat that owners will run themselves. I don't think they expect many with crew cabins. How it is to put in the berth is really important. So let's head into Lymington and see what it's like. Well, it's the old school way on this particular boat because I've just got a pair of throttles and my bow thruster. But, you know, it says a lot about this helm that I'm choosing to do it down here. Because I've got that great all-round view. I've got the side door. I've got the camera out the back as well, so I can see the bathing platform from down here. I can't see it from the seat, you know, looking back, but I can see it from the camera. So I do feel like I've got an all-round view, and I like being on this deck because I'm more in touch with my crew. Up on the Flybridge, everyone's having to shout to talk to me. So now it's just a case of gently turning her using the throttles. Got a bit of windage here. She hasn't got enormous props, so there isn't masses of bite. What do you reckon? See in a minute. Yeah, we're just debating whether we can actually get into this berth because it's quite short, and they told us to go bow in. See, this is all the fun of coming into a new marina. They told us to go in one way, but we're going to go in the other. Just crack on, Jack. Just get nice. Right, we're going to flip the fenders on the other side and we're going to go in stern too. So I really am going to be relying on this camera. This is a good test of how well she just sits in the water. You know, these are the bits where you start to panic. Your close quarters, you don't want the boat to be blowing around a lot. You know, it is quite a tall, high boat. It has got some windage. But actually, you know, you've got a little bit of keel, semi-displacement hull, so yeah, it sits okay. No stern thruster, an option no doubt, but you know, twin shafts, they do give you a lot of purchase. So yeah, now we're getting backwards. All just as easy really. In fact, slightly easier because I can really spot the pontoon. Yeah, and this is nice. I can see my crew, I can talk to them. Can't quite see the corner that's going to be close to that pontoon that we're going alongside. Just catching the wind. I know. Right, try again. This is what happens. It's a tight gap.
Do you want to go back? Should we try bow in then?
Might have to. I just don't think I'm going to keep the bow in check all the way in.
Okay.
We're switching them over again. I do want to film this because I do this all the time, and sometimes you fail, and you know, we've not hit anything, there's no panic, you just accept we've got to try and do it another way. The boat's new to me, it takes quite a lot of welly at slow speed to actually make it react, so it's not nice that you have to really give it a shove. That just doesn't feel a nice thing to have to do at close quarters. And it doesn't help that the berth we're going into, the wind is blowing across and just taking the bow. So hopefully going bow in is just going to give me a bit more control. I can actually drive it into the berth because it's just not happening going in stern two. But that's what happens. That's what happens with boating. It's realistic. So another fender change. Good job we've got good crew. But it is a good lesson. You know, there's just no panic. Sometimes you have to take a few goes, maybe make a different plan. And if it all goes wrong, you can just ask for another berth. Don't be afraid to do that. Hopefully we won't have to do that here. But yeah, challenging one.
You know what I say? Do you want me to have a go?
Yeah.
Right, I'll go upstairs.
We're going to hand over to a professional, see if he can do it. He's going to take over from upstairs, but I'll try and commentate from down here. I hope Jack on the drone is making this berth look impossibly tight and horrible, so I don't lose my reputation. Right, Paul the pro skipper is on the controls. I might have to dash off to grab a line, but still film it and rate his work. Thankfully for my own blushes, even a skipper as skilled as Paul couldn't squeeze the Sirena into that particular berth, so it was time for plan B. Right, the fun continues. The new berth. makes me feel slightly better that the professional captain couldn't do it either. But it was hard. So yeah, told the marina they're going to give us a new berth. Often is the case, so don't be nervous to ask for a new berth. There's no harm in saying no, I can't do that. Unfortunately, this is when the drone died because it had been up in the air for so long, so sadly you won't be able to witness me bring it alongside into a much kinder berth. Right, things have calmed down a little bit now. We're in a much easier berth, and yeah, we could have easily cut all that out and just said, yeah, this is the berth we came into, but I did want to demonstrate, you know, to people who are new to boating watching these videos, it is often the case that things can sometimes go wrong, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have an accident. It doesn't mean that you're going to bang into things. It just means you have to change your plans, and that was a pretty good example of that. There wasn't any panic. We're just like, right, this isn't possible, change your berth. I'll encourage you to do the same thing. If you're approaching a berthing procedure that you're not comfortable with, just don't do it. And we're in safe and sound. Right, let's go and look at the engine room. Engine room access is through this nice large hatch in the cockpit. Now down here in the engine room, it is very much crouching room only, though the hatch is big, as I said, so you can stand when you first get to the bottom of the ladder, but between the engines you'll be down on your haunches, but probably not kneeling, because this checker plate doesn't half hurt the old knees. Now the other benefit of these Cummins is they are nice and small, so they don't take up massive space inside this engine room. You can see the V-drive connection here, so the shaft juts out and it goes back underneath the engine. That's why they're so compact and so far back, and they are really easy to get to work on. You can get to all sides underneath them. It's all pretty easy, and the finish is great as well. It's really neat, tidy, everything's labelled. You've got good access down to the generator in that corner. The Seakeeper is spinning away underneath this hatch here. Access is pretty good because all of this comes off, and I often talk about Seakeepers being buried because they do need servicing. Sometimes they need to come out in the worst case scenario, so being able to get to that easily is really important. And there are some other nice touches like having a wandering light here, so you can easily, you know, look down in the bilges and make sure everything's okay, and then stop it back when you're not using it. All these little details are very handy, and I say it a lot on owner-run boats, but having an engine room that's easy to work in is really important, and this is a pretty good one. It may be the entry-level boat, but I think this might be some of Sirena's best work. This is actually a category that is quite thinly populated. There are lots of trawlers bigger than this, but in this size, you've really not got very much choice, but they're good boats, and this really stands out. As I suspected, it's a really good all-rounder, very well suited to the UK, but not just the UK, northern climes as well. This feels like a boat that if you want to go out to do some winter boating, it would really look after you, but it's got all these deck spaces that in the sun, it excels as well. You often think trawler and you think traditional, but this feels modern and fresh and new on the inside, and it's a bit of a plastic trawler, you know, it's not a traditional trawler, it's not a Nordhaven, but it's got that roughy tufty look and a hull that underpins it really nicely. I'm thoroughly impressed. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching that review and sea trial of the Sirena 48 Fly. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button if you did. If you've watched this long and not subscribed, well, that's just a bit silly. So, you know, click up there and subscribe. And if you want to see one of this boat's rivals with the sea trial of the Beneteau Swift Trawler 54, I'll put that up there. Enjoy that one as well. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Jack Haines. This is YachtBuyer.